Welcome back to Sparkle and Shine, your go-to podcast for tips and tricks from JP Carpet Cleaning Expert Floor Care. I'm your host, Layla, and today we're going to talk about grout. Specifically, I want to talk about the different options of grout that are available to you and what is best to use for your tile. So this is really important when you're installing new tile in your bathroom, doing a shower, even if you're installing tiles on your porch or your patio, backsplash in your kitchen. The grout is really one of the most important decisions you can make after you've decided to actually change the tile or install tile, whatever the case may be. So, choosing the right grout for your tile can feel as daunting as selecting the tiles themselves. With various options available, each type of grout serves a unique purpose and is best suited for different applications, making it essential to understand the differences. Grout is a crucial component in tile installation, not only serving an aesthetic purpose, but also providing structural integrity and protection against water damage. Understanding the distinctions among sanded, non-sanded, and epoxy grouts will allow you to make an informed decision tailored to your specific project. In this podcast, I want to talk about the different types of grout, the key considerations for their selection, their advantages and disadvantages, how you would apply them, like application methods, and then the maintenance requirements. All of this will help you choose the best grout for your purposes. So first off, let's talk about the different types of grout. When you start a tiling project, whether it's your kitchen backsplash, a bathroom floor, or any other type of tile installation, the type of grout you choose is crucial for both the appearance and longevity of your project. Grout serves to not only fill the gaps between tiles, but also to bond them together and to enhance the overall durability of the tiled surface. The main grout types include non-sanded grout, quarry type grout, epoxy grout, and finely sanded grout, all of which are available in various different grout colors and are designed for specific grout joint sizes and tile materials. Grout also falls under two other categories: traditional cementitious or cement-based grout, which includes the sanded and non-sanded varieties, and then resin-based grouts, such as epoxy grout. The latter is formulated to meet specific performance requirements and generally offers superior resistance in high traffic and moisture-prone areas. The type of grout you choose should depend on the tile you're using, how wide your grout lines are, the joint width, and where you're going to be installing these tiles. The right selection will help maintain the floor, the shower, wherever your tiles are, will help maintain them and ensure durability and ease of maintenance. So the first type I mentioned was sanded grout. This is a solid choice for most tile installations. Sanded grout is comprised of a blend of Portland cement and sand, which contributes to the enhanced stability and reduced risk of cracking, which is a frequent issue when using unsanded grout in larger grout lines. So sanded grout is ideal for grout joints that are 1/8 of an inch to 1/2 an inch wide. The sand acts as a filler, making this type of grout less prone to shrinkage and provides a robust seal between the tiles. Sanded grout is also suitable for a range of materials, including ceramic, porcelain, granite, and terrazzo, and excels, like I said, in grout lines that are at least 1/8 of an inch wide. However, for smooth or delicate tile surfaces like marble or glass tiles, sanded grout could scratch the tile as the sand grains, act similar to sandpaper against these softer materials. So again, to recap real quick, sanded grout is good for large grout lines. Most tiles this will work for. Generally, you'd use it on like a kitchen floor or on your patio. These are good places where you have large grout lines. If you're using glass tiles or marble or something with a delicate surface, you're going to want to avoid sanded grout as it can damage and scratch the surface of the tile. If you are using very small grout joints, the sand may actually make it more difficult to push the grout into the lines and cause the area to be more prone to cracking and missing grout. So the next type of grout is non-sanded grout. Non-sanded is perfect for these narrower grout lines, less than 1 inch thick. eighth of an inch thick, which provides a smooth, dense joint that's ideal for polished or delicate surfaces prone to cracking. Its sticky and low porosity makes it a popular choice for vertical applications, like in the bathroom where your shower is, even if the grout lines are small enough in your kitchen backsplash. Non-sanded grout's formulation allows it to grab onto vertical surfaces, reducing the chance of slumping or sagging in those thin grout lines as it sets. And this type of grout can typically be a little bit costlier, and it might offer fewer color options than sanded grout. It is generally easier to maintain, as many unsanded grout products don't need sealing. However, it is recommended to use this in smaller grout joints, less than an eighth of an inch thick, because otherwise it will slump in the wider seams due to the lack of sand. If you do choose to use this in wider seams, you're going to end up seeing a lot of cracking or missing grout and or bubbles and a non-smooth finish. That's simply because of the product itself. You need the sand in the wide grouts, and you don't need the sand in the thinner grouts. The other type I mentioned is epoxy grout, or resin-based grout. This is like the epitome of advancements in grout technology. Epoxy grout boasts a superior composition that offers unmatched durability, stain resistance, and a water impermeable finish. It's an ideal choice for both high traffic areas and wet environments due to its robust nature. It resists a myriad of substances. It is flexible, stain resistant, all sorts of things. It really is an amazing product. It's resin-based. It also differs from traditional cementitious grouts in that it does not require sealing, which often makes it a super popular option because it's long-lasting and low maintenance. Although it's applicable to a range of different tile materials, you can use this in wide joints, thin joints, on the bathroom shower, in the kitchen, on the counter, on the floor, wherever you name it. If you are installing it where there is natural stone, you'll want to be extra careful because the epoxy can sometimes discolor the natural stone. So what you'll want to do is apply the sealer to the stone before you apply your epoxy grout to prevent discoloration. Other resin-based grouts, pre-mixed resin-based grouts, may not have this issue, so you would always want to do a color test before you go ahead and apply the grout, just in case. The other thing is, and this is one of the reasons why you might not pick epoxy grout, right? I just gave you a whole bunch of awesome reasons to use it. So then why does anyone not use it? Well, it sets much more quickly than cement-based counterparts, which can be great when you're trying to complete a project quickly. However, there's a mixing process and it's got a fast curing quality that can sometimes make it a little bit difficult to clean off the grout haze after you've installed the grout. So there's special cleaning products, there's special sealers. It is just quite a bit more work when it comes to actually cleaning and installing this grout than it is with unsanded or non-sanded or sanded grout. Despite all of these things, though, the benefits of epoxy grout or resin-based grout does make it a very compelling choice for people seeking a long-lasting and clean grout solution. It is a little pricier, of course, with all of these benefits. Why wouldn't it be? But again, there are a lot of benefits to it. Okay, so we've talked about the different types of grout. The next the next thing I want to talk about is things that you need to consider when you select your grout. So when you take on a tiling project, an aspect to carefully consider, right, aside from the tile material, as we said, is the type of grout you'll use. Again, it doesn't only enhance the aesthetic appeal, it acts as a preventive barrier, a protective barrier against moisture and other types of damages, which, making an informed decision about your grout can prevent a whole bunch of common issues like damage and leaks and even structural issues in the grout where the tiles become loose. So it's really crucial to opt for a grout that is compatible with your tile type to avoid any issues that might arise as a result of the wrong grout. For example, if you use non-sanded grout On the floor with wide grout lines, you might find your non-sanded grout slumping, cracking, going missing much quicker than if you were to use the appropriate type of grout in that space. So there's also a lot of different colors, and there's a lot of different things to consider once you've decided what type of grout you need, or even if you're still trying to decide what type of grout to use. So the first thing I want to discuss is the tile type and the location of the tile. The choice of grout inevitably relates to both the tiles used and their location. Sanded grout, which is robust and ideal for larger joints, is common for ceramic tile installations. It should not be used for delicate surfaces. On the other hand, non-sanded grout or pre-mixed polymer resin grouts are advantageous for narrower joints typical of kitchen backsplashes, glass tiles, vertical surfaces, even mosaic tiles with the thin little grout lines. They provide a smooth, even finish, minimizing the risk of scratching the tiles. Now, that's the tile type, right? For areas consistently battling moisture, like showers or a kitchen backsplash, epoxy is going to be your superior option. It is non-porous, which extends the lifespan of the installation by staving off mold and mildew. High-performance cement grouts, though more absorbent, provide a substantive layer and protection in high traffic and high moisture areas as well. So again, when selecting your grout, factors such as the potential for moisture exposure and the type of tile being used and the over durability required by that specific location should be the most important things that you're considering when you make the decision of what kind of grout to use. The next thing, as I mentioned before, is the space between the grout. Between the tile where you fill with grout, the grout joint. This is a defining factor in choosing the appropriate grout. Patterned clay tiles, like saltillo tiles, they don't just favor it, they demand broader spacing due to their design. Saltillo tiles are not built evenly. They have a lot of differences between the tiles, and that's the beauty of it. And some of those tiles necessitate a minimum of 1/4 inch up to even wider grout lines. And in those cases, you would use a sanded grout to really fill and protect those areas. However, if you've got a space that's like 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch of a grout line, like if you were using large marble tiles, you would use a non-sanded grout. So for ease of use and understanding, to put it as plainly as possible, small grout lines, you need non-sanded grout, or resin-based non-sanded grout to prevent excess friction and potential damage, while grout lines exceeding 1/8 of an inch should be filled with sanded grout, which will provide increased stability and bond strength. Now, I already mentioned this one before as well, but moisture exposure is a central consideration when selecting grout. Areas prone to high humidity levels or water contact need a grout that can withstand such conditions. So, we mentioned before that epoxy or pre-mixed polymer resin grouts will be great in a bathroom or kitchen. However, what do you do around your pool, where you have wide grout lines and the tiles can withstand those kinds of like cementitious grouts? That you can absolutely use a high-performance sanded grout as well in these kinds of areas. Traditional cement-based grouts, while durable, sometimes absorb too much water and darken with wet, which can impact the aesthetics of that tiled area when moisture exposure is incredibly frequent. The other thing is that frequent moisture exposure may reduce the structural integrity of the grout, which can cause cracking and damage. To counteract this, there are grout products that can fortify the grout and make it more flexible and provide anti-mold properties. So that will be also helpful for other places where you would use grout in moisture-laden areas, like around a pool or on a patio that frequently sees the sprinkler water, if you will. Now, the last thing that you should consider when it comes to grout is the color. The right shade can either provide a beautiful backdrop that allows your tiles to shine, or you can hide the grout lines and just let the tiles themselves speak. You could even use the grout lines as a contrasting color to really make the tiles pop. Similarly, lighter colors like whites and creams can brighten the entire room and establish seamless transition between the tiles, but again, that may stain more readily. So grout color is more about style and maintenance, and is less about the structural integrity. That said, not every type of grout comes with every grout color. So if you are got your heart set on black grout with your white tiles, make sure that the white tiles you choose and the grout that you need to use for those tiles does have black grout before you choose those tiles. It's an iterative process. You pick one, you need to check it with the other and make sure it all marries together perfectly. Now remember, each of these considerations interplays with each other. So if you pick one thing over here and then you realize it doesn't work, you might have to change things. But together they form the basis for the well-informed selection that will ensure that your tiles, your project, your bathroom, kitchen, patio, porch will stand the test of time in both functionality and style. Okay, now real quick, you've decided that, or you're working with a space that can use both either sanded or non-sanded. It's not really a wet area. It's got, an 1/8 of an inch grout lines. Anything will work there. So then what should you choose? Well, each grout has advantages and disadvantages. I kind of touched upon it a little bit, but again, I cannot emphasize enough how pivotal selecting the right type of grout for your tile installation is. Each grout type, from the cementitious grouts to high performance variations to epoxy grouts, they all come with their own set of advantages and disadvantages. There are resin-based grouts, like I said, such as epoxy grouts that are durable and highly stain resistant and come with a plethora of grout colors. But they are very difficult to apply and often are heftier in price. And they just have a very demanding curing process and application process that may necessitate professional installation. Separately, you've got cementitious grouts, which have been used for decades. They're affordable, they're easy to use, and they're a very accessible option for both professionals and people just trying to do it on their own. They're well suited to a variety of tile projects, including ceramic tile installation, natural stone tiles, and so on. Their drawbacks is that they're a little bit more vulnerable to cracking, staining, and developing mildew. So you would need to ensure that you're regularly sealing in order to make sure that you're protecting that grout. There are other things that can be added into this kind of grout, like latex modified sealers that you can actually mix with your cementitious grout to improve their qualities. But again, it still will require sealing, and it's based on the proper mixture to ensure you get the right effects. Okay, so real quick, I want to go through a couple of things that were super important when it comes to the advantages and disadvantages. So the first one is the durability of sanded versus non-sanded grout. Durability is the deciding role. Sanded grout, with its formulated mix that incorporates sand, provides a robust and stable foundation as the grout cures. This way, as the grout cures, the lines slowly shrink to themselves. The sand keeps the grout from shrinking. It adds density and tightness that offers significant resistance to cracking, which makes sanded grout a durable choice for flooring in high traffic zones such as entryways and commercial spaces. Further pushing the case in favor of sanded grout is its suitability for wider grout lines. Again, as I mentioned, with a minimum width of 1/8 of an inch, sanded grout provides the strength necessary to secure tile adhesion and accommodates the natural movement and slight adjustments of flooring tiles as you walk over it, as there's earthquakes, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, non-sanded grout, which lacks the sand filler, can be more vulnerable to pressure-induced cracking. Because of this propensity for damage, it's seldom recommended for floor applications where the strain is the greatest. Instead, non-sanded grout is perfect for vertical surfaces and in tile installations with narrow joints, because this offers a smooth finish free of the abrasiveness of sand. Okay, now the last thing I want to talk about in this section is epoxy grouts, the benefits and limitations. So I kind of touched upon it before, but I want to go a little bit more in detail here. Epoxy grout, as I said, is totally different from traditional grout formulas thanks to its commendable stain resistance and endurance, especially in environments that see a lot of wear or moisture. Due to its non-porous nature, epoxy grout effortlessly repels water and stains, maintains its integrity without the need for sealing, and it's a long-term solution. The chemical resilience of epoxy grout also means it can endure harsher conditions, such as exposure to certain chemicals without losing its finish or effectiveness. This is great for places like kitchen backsplashes where when you're cooking, grease gets everywhere. It makes it easier to clean up and doesn't stain as easily. And it's a dependable solution for areas that often fall prey to spills and splashes. However, as I've mentioned, deploying epoxy grout is not without its challenges. It has a super rapid curing time that can be difficult to handle or to navigate for less experienced installers. Some epoxy grouts are two-part, and you have to mix the entire thing to ensure you get the correct chemical composition for what you're doing. If you just mix a little with a little, you might not have the correct ratio between the products. Furthermore, the stickiness and consistency of epoxy grout generally tends to be a lot more liquidy, juicier, if you will, than traditional cementitious grouts, and that can complicate the application procedure. And then lastly, while the performance merits of epoxy grout is substantial, they are accompanied by a higher initial cost. The investment, though considerable upfront, can be offset over time by the reduced need for sealing the grout and for maintenance. That said, everything needs maintenance, so we cannot forget or stress enough the importance of cleaning your tile and grout lines, regardless of what kind of grout you have. So, all that said. So, the next thing I want to talk about is applying your grout. So, the proper application is the key to the success of your grouting work. To start, if you're using cementitious grout, you need to read the instructions. You might think, oh, it's easy, I've seen someone do it, just to add water. Yeah, sometimes, but the cement-based grout brand that you choose may have a different ratio of grout to water, and you want to make sure you follow the right guidelines. This will ensure that you get the right consistency and the grout performs as it should. You're going to use a rubber float, apply the grout at a diagonal angle to the tile's joints, and press firmly to pack the joints fully and evenly. The diagonal movement aids in the prevention of air bubbles, which can lead to weak spots. Once you've applied the grout, give it a few minutes and remove the excess from the surface of the tiles. Leftover grout can harden and become difficult to remove and potentially mar the appearance of your tiles. To maintain a neat finish, you're going to want to wipe your tiles with a damp sponge after the grout has started to set. This can also help to reduce the hazy film or like the grout haze from forming on your tiles. It is impossible to completely avoid grout haze. It is a natural occurrence when you're grouting tile. We have some tricks for you though, so just stick around for a little bit longer. And finally, patience is a virtue when it comes to letting the grout cure. Again, follow the manufacturer's recommended time frame, usually somewhere between 24 to 72 hours, to allow the grout to dry and harden fully, ensuring the area remains dry during this period. The curing process is crucial for overarching strength and durability in that area. So I mentioned a couple of tools. Real quick, I just want to talk about the tools and techniques specific to sanded grout. Again, large grout joints, the sand acts as a filler and a reinforcement. It enhances the grout's structural integrity and makes it the ideal selection where floors face more stress and traffic. Again, pre-application, you want to mix it according to the manufacturer's directions, and when you apply it, you're going to use the rubber float. You're going to work the grout into the joints with firm pressure, making sure that it fills everywhere. Given its sand content, though, beware that pressing too hard may cause scratching, particularly on delicate tile surfaces. So this is, again, why we mentioned if you're going to be using sanded grout, try not to use it with marble tiles or glass tiles. Once everything is in place, and everything is dried and everything is good to go, you've given it time to cure, you're going to want to apply a penetrating sealer. Sometimes your grout manufacturer will have one that they advise you to use. Sometimes you might have a preference, or you've done some research that the tile wants, the grout wants, so on and so forth. The sealing step is vital because it'll keep the porous surface of the sanded grout safe from stains and moisture. Okay. Now, tools and techniques for non-sanded grout. So again, you're gonna wanna mix your non-sanded grout according to the manufacturer's specifications. If it's too juicy, and when it dries, it'll shrink, there's too much air, you'll see pockets and air bubbles. If it's too thick, it's hard to work with and won't press into the joints as easily as it should. And therefore, you're going to end up leaving air pockets underneath the grout lines, which is equally as bad as air pockets in the grout lines. Applying it is similar to using the sanded grout. You'll use your rubber float again, press it into the grout joints. It is smoother, so it'll be easier to spread and clean off the tile, especially in vertical applications like walls where you're not kneeling on the ground. Again, you're gonna wanna still use a penetrating sealer with non-sanded grout. Some may not need it, but certain manufacturers will still recommend it to ensure maximum performance and longevity. It should come as no surprise when I say that you wanna always check your product guidelines to make sure that you're performing the work as needed. Now for epoxy grout. Applying epoxy grout requires more of a nuanced approach. I mentioned it's almost impossible to avoid grout haze. Well, one of the ways, let's try that again. The grout haze caused by epoxy grout can be very difficult to remove without special cleaning products. So what you're gonna wanna do is apply a sealer onto the tiles before you apply the grout. That will help reduce the amount of grout haze. Apply your grout. Again, you're going to use floats and spreaders. You're going to want to continue to clean up as quickly as possible and remove the excess grout as soon as possible from the tile surface to avoid it drying, because it does have a very rapid hardening time. And then once you've cleaned everything up, you're going to want to work in small sections so that you can use. Most epoxy grouts come with a special cleaner or a special sponge that it contains a cleaner to ensure that it lifts the grout haze from the tile as quickly as possible. So you're going to want to work in small sections and clean up the grout haze off the tiles as quickly as possible. Okay. So you finished your tile project. Congratulations, you did it. It looks beautiful. I'm so proud of you. Now, the next thing to consider, the last thing to consider, is how are you going to maintain this now that you're done? Ensuring the longevity and pristine appearance of your grouted surface distinctly hinges upon proper maintenance. The routine encompasses a scheduled cleaning regime with pH-neutral cleaners to combat mold and mildew. Beyond the visual aspect, it's also important to clean the grout to ensure its structural integrity over time. Particularly with cement-based grouts, it's essential to employ a sealer even after they've cured. And you'll want to reapply that sealer every year at a minimum. And regular cleaning with a gentle detergent, regardless of your grout type, is going to be necessary to maintain their appearance, not just for the tile, but the grout lines as well. And one quick note, regular cleaning is a fantastic way to maintain your tile and grout lines. Over time, with regular use, grout can crack, chip. You'll see hairline cracks in the grout if there's too much Flexibility in the tub, for example. The grout lines around the tub seam may crack simply because there's too much flexibility, regardless of the type of grout you use. And regular cleaning will give you a chance to spot all these issues so that you can take care of the problem before it becomes a massive issue. So that's another reason you'll want to maintain your grout. So incorporating a monthly routine using a commercial cleaner, particularly in moist environments like showers, is really good for their upkeep. For an eco-friendly alternative, you can use 3/4 cup of baking soda, 1/4 cup of hydrogen peroxide, and like a couple drops of mild dish soap. That can help to rejuvenate your grouted areas as well. And then, of course, there's always professional tile and grout cleaning. That is an option. Our service specifically does both apply a pre-treatment formula. There's hand scrubbing and machine scrubbing, and then steam cleaning as well. That kind of cleaning we recommend at least every 9 to 12 months. And you'll only want to seal your tiles and grout lines after it's been cleaned. Otherwise, you're just going to be sealing all of the dirt into your tile and grout lines, which is silly. Again, it is a preventative measure with various benefits. Stain prevention, moisture exclusion, mold and mildew inhibition are just 3 of the major benefits. This procedure is especially valuable, like I said, in bathrooms. Even places like the kitchen backsplash will benefit from sealing the grout and tile. So in conclusion, I've kind of talked about a whole bunch of stuff here today. We talked about the different types of grout. We talked about the things you need to think about when choosing the type of grout. We've talked about the various benefits and disadvantages of the different grout types. We talked about the tools and techniques needed for the 3 major types of grout, as well as some of the maintenance requirements, regardless of the type of grout you choose. So in conclusion, the selection of grout plays a pivotal role in your tile installation, your tile project. For the best results, consider the specific demands of your project, from the type of tile to the location of the tile. Lighter grout colors may need more frequent maintenance, and darker grout might not. If you are using a cementitious grout, you might need more sealer, regular sealing on a more normal basis than you would with resin-based or epoxy grouts. When weighing your options between non-sanded, sanded, and epoxy grouts, consider all of these things in one go. Don't just think about one thing and think I'm done. Everything together will help you make the right decision. And if you are confused, if it's just an inundation of information and you're not sure where to go, consult with a professional. Ensure that the grout you choose matches your project's requirements and that it cures and performs according to expectations. Clean grout is the final touch to a neatly finished tile project, so you want to make sure you make the right decision for enduring satisfaction. Okay, so that was a lot today, and I'm sure there are questions. Please send them to me on any of our socials. I'm more than happy to talk about them next time and get you your answers as soon as possible. Reach out to us at our phone number, at our email, like I said, at any of our socials, and we would be more than happy to talk through all of this with you directly. Okay. And, I think that's it for today. I've probably talked your ear off enough. So thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Sparkle and Shine. Remember, you are making a decision that is incredibly important, and you want to look at all of the different facets to that decision. And with everything we discussed here, I think you can do it. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe to Sparkle and Shine for more tips on expert advice on maintaining your floors and restoring them and other DIY projects. Until next time, keep shining.